Takes. Ever heard of takes? You know, they're those things that you sometimes give when you have an opinion on something. Sometimes you'll accidentally leave your take sitting out in the sun for a bit too long and then it becomes a hot take, and then you've just gotta tell everyone on the internet your hot take. And some of my favorite takes come from conservatives. You know, conservatives have been known to have takes that are sometimes a little bit silly, a little bit goofy, a little bit wacky. And maybe I just think that conservatives have goofy takes because I'm a leftist. You know, maybe it's because I've been drinking too much soy milk, you know, chugging too many packets of soy sauce. You know, every day I drive my electric car down to the soy store and then I pay for some women to get abortions. You know, your average day in the life of a leftist. But anyway, a couple weeks ago I heard a take from a conservative that I have not been able to get out of my brain. This take is an actual brain worm that has infected me, and I thought that maybe if I share this take with you, I can get the brain worm to leave my brain and maybe it'll migrate over to your brain. So really, this video is just me being purely selfish, trying to expunge this disease from my brain and give it to you instead. Anyway, I'll stop yapping and just show you the take I'm talking about.
Perfect, thank you. Enjoy, please. Thank you. If gun-free zones work, why don't we set up rape-free zones?
If gun-free zones work, then why don't we set up rape-free zones? I don't think another question has ever caused me as much mental anguish as this question. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat just thinking, what could he have possibly meant by this? If gun-free zones work, then why not set up rape-free zones? The first obvious thought that pops into my head when I hear that question is that everywhere is a rape-free zone. It's not like you go to McDonald's and there's a rape-free zone sign on the door, but then you go over to Burger King and there's a sign on the door that says rape allowed. Enjoy your Whopper with a side of rape. And if you're a conservative who loves guns, why are you comparing guns to rape? Don't you think that guns are good, but rape is bad? You do think that rape is bad, right? If I really rack my brain and try to understand the point that he's getting at, I think the point that he's trying to make is that if a rapist wants to rape someone, they're not gonna be stopped by a rape-free zone sign, just like if a shooter wants to shoot someone, they're not gonna be stopped by a gun-free zone sign. But this is just a mind-numbingly stupid analogy, because like I said, everywhere in society is a rape-free zone because we've made rape illegal everywhere. And if rape was legal everywhere, there would be much higher rates of rape. So in order for your analogy to work, you would have to believe that making rape illegal does not decrease the rates of rape, which would be an insane opinion to have. I'm not even someone who's against the Second Amendment. I just think we should have common sense gun control. But even if you're someone who believes in the Second Amendment, I don't think that means you need to be totally against gun-free zones. Like, you really need to be able to bring your gun everywhere? Are you like, you know, I was gonna go to my daughter's piano recital, but then I heard that I wasn't allowed to bring my AR-15. What an authoritarian nightmare. Because I'm an American, it is my God-given right that when my daughter hits the last note of her Beethoven piece, I should be able to wave my AR-15 in the air and go, woo, yeah, that's my daughter. That's my daughter right there. Yeah, yeah, woo. So no, I don't think it's some crazy level of authoritarianism to have some places that you can't bring your gun. Just like I don't think it's crazy authoritarianism to have some places you can't whip your dick out. As a libertarian, it is my belief that I should be able to do whatever I want. It is my God-given right that I should be able to sit in church with my AR-15 in one hand and my cock in the other hand. So anyway, this rape-free zone take is obviously insane. It is totally reasonable to have places where you can't rape people, aka everywhere, and it is also totally reasonable to have places that you can't bring your gun. Anyway, Date Right Stuff is a conservative TikToker who gives these hot takes while eating a meal or a treat of some sort. All of the conservative girlies know that we need to have our sweet treat while we spew propaganda. But yeah, I think that this account is kind of like rage bait, where he gives purposefully provocative takes to try to funnel people to his dating app, The Right Stuff. But you know, when someone's giving dumb takes, I've just gotta dunk on them. You know, it's my biological imperative to dunk on dumb takes. Whenever I hear a dumb take, a basketball materializes in my brain and it's like, must dunk, must dunk. I fucking hate myself. All right, let's watch some more of his stupid videos.
If you outlaw abortions, abortions will just happen illegally. But if you outlaw guns, then we'll all be safe.
So I get with this take that he's trying to criticize liberal logic, but I don't know if he realizes that the take that he's making is actually pro-gun control, because if he realizes that making abortion illegal would decrease the rate of abortions, then he must also realize that making guns illegal would also decrease the rate of gun crimes. I agree that when people say if you make abortion illegal, it'll just happen illegally is kind of a weak argument, because this is true for literally anything you make illegal. Anything that's illegal will still happen, it will just happen at a lower rate. And the reason conservatives want to make abortion illegal is because they know this will decrease the rates of abortion. Just like pro-gun control people know that if you make guns illegal, this will decrease the rates of gun crimes. So I don't know if he understands that by making this point, he is implying that gun control would work. Otherwise, why is he pushing so hard to make abortion illegal?
Saying we don't need guns because we have police is like saying we don't need fire extinguishers because we have firefighters.
So, like I said, I'm not totally against people having guns, but it is obviously incredibly stupid to compare guns to fire extinguishers. The thing that makes guns complicated is that they have the positive benefit of you being able to use them for self-defense while having the negative drawback of them being incredibly dangerous and making it way easier to kill people. Fire extinguishers don't have a negative drawback, they're just positive. There are no crazy people walking into schools and blasting kindergartners in the face with fire extinguishers. So while I don't fully trust the police to keep people safe, and I think it is fine to own guns as long as they're properly regulated, comparing fire extinguishers to guns is obviously a terrible analogy. Date Right Stuff not only has opinions on guns, he also, of course, has opinions on racism.
If you say Palestinians deserve a homeland just for themselves, you're woke. But if you say white people deserve a homeland just for themselves, you're racist?
You do know that Palestinian is not a race, right? The reason that people who want a white ethno-state are racist is because they are excluding people based on race. People in Palestine wanting their own state is not racist because Palestinian is not a race. The group of people that would be analogous to Palestinians would be Americans, not white people. And I think it's totally reasonable for people in the United States to want their own homeland as long as they don't exclude people based on race, just like I think it's totally reasonable for people in Palestine to want their own homeland as long as they don't exclude people based on race. Are you stupid?
So I can't assume your gender, but you can assume I'm racist?
This might be a bit of a hot take, but personally, I think it is totally fine to assume people's genders. In general, people tend to present a certain way to society to signal to other people what their gender is. So I think it's fine to assume people's gender based on context clues. The problem comes when you assume someone's gender, but you assume it incorrectly, and then they correct you and say, no, actually that isn't my gender, and then you choose to be an absolute asshole and say, no, actually, I can tell that you really are a man, or you really are a woman, shut the fuck up. The problem isn't assuming the gender, the problem is doubling down once you've been corrected because you're an asshole. And in general, I don't think it's good to assume that people are racist, but sometimes people give you context clues that they might be racist, like when they give hot takes about how white people should be able to have their own homeland.
Now that we haven't had a terrorist attack in a while, can we please keep our shoes on at the airport?
This video is so funny to me. You can see this person in the background looking so freaked out that he's talking about terrorism while walking through the TSA check. I find it funny that these types of people refuse to acknowledge that white privilege exists, but deep down I think they understand that it does. Because I promise you that if this dude were Muslim, he would not be confidently yelling into his phone about terrorism as he walked through a TSA check.
I'm just gonna ask this one more time. Why do we only judge white people for owning slaves when every culture had them?
I will gladly judge any culture that had slavery because I'm not a moral relativist. Slavery has always been bad, and any culture that had slavery was bad. And I think that we should help any group of people that is still negatively affected by the repercussions of slavery, even if it did happen hundreds of years ago. So yes, obviously white people are not the only group of people that ever did slavery, but in America, they are the primary group of people that did slavery, and you can still see the effects of this when you look at the average wealth of white people compared to black people today. He's also got some hot takes about COVID.
Solar eclipses are amazing. You know what's even more amazing? A virus so smart that it attacks every 4 years during a presidential election.
Does this dude even care at all to make sure that his hot takes are based in reality? Right now in America, COVID cases are at some of the lowest numbers they've been at during the entire pandemic. By far, the biggest spike in COVID cases happened in January of 2022, which was not during an election year. If you're trying to push some sort of conspiracy theory that the government is inflating COVID numbers because it's an election year, then why are COVID numbers at an all-time low? You are just straight up lying.
Whenever you're feeling dumb, just remember there are people who stayed in their homes for a year because the TV told them to.
Personally, I didn't stay home because the TV told me to. I stayed home because virologists told me to. You know, the people who have dedicated their entire life to studying viruses. But sure, I'm a stupid sheep for listening to virologists. I should be more like you and base my entire life off of a book that was written thousands of years ago. Like, do these people believe that trying to slow the spread of diseases is always bad, or does this just apply to COVID? If COVID was hypothetically killing like a bunch more people and it killed like 100 million people, would they still think that it's bad to try to stop that from happening? Is that still an infringement on your freedom? I agree that there are negative effects from making people stay home and from shutting things down. You obviously don't want the economy to crash, but there are also negative effects from overwhelming the healthcare system and having millions of people die. Any logical person knows that dealing with a pandemic is about weighing up pros and cons. But for people like him, shutting things down is always bad because freedom, and who fucking cares how many people die? Let's go through a few more TikToks really quickly.
Maybe telling everyone to stop fat shaming wasn't the best way to stop obesity.
So, fat shaming people has actually been shown to make it harder for fat people to lose weight. In general, shaming someone for their body is just going to damage their mental health, and when fat people have poor mental health, it is harder for them to lose weight. I don't think there's anything wrong with doctors being honest with fat people about the dangers associated with excess fat. But fat shaming people does not help them lose weight. All it does is stroke your own ego because you think it's fun to bully people. That's really all it boils down to. So if you really want to fat shame people, don't hide it behind this facade of pretending like you're doing something good for them. Just be honest with yourself and admit that you kind of enjoy being an asshole.
This is a serious question. How am I supposed to lose weight when the best part about life is food?
I wonder how he would respond if a fat person made this same joke. Would he still find it funny, or would he call them a lazy fatty? I guess we'll never know. I hope you enjoyed watching me dunk on some of these dumb takes. Date Right Stuff is basically a soulless propaganda machine trying to funnel people to his dating app. But at the very least, he did just wish the LGBT community a happy Pride Month.
Just wanted to wish the LGBTQ plus community a happy Pride Month. Enjoy, but don't forget to thank a straight person for your existence.
I'm not sure if he's aware that the LGBT community has more than just lesbians and gay people in it. There are also bi people who definitely can have sex and have children. But you know what? I'll take it. Thank you, Date Right Stuff, for being such an ally. I hope you enjoy your little sweet treats, and I hope someday you stop being such a dumbass.